Lustron houses were made from porcelain-enameled steel panels and sold as prefabricated kits during the post-World War II era as a visionary response to a nationwide housing shortage. Yet their window of popularity was surprisingly brief, roughly from the late 1940s into the early 1950s. A passerby today might find them intriguing, or perhaps mistake them for a simple ranch house at first glance, but behind this unusual exterior is a story of one ambitious enterprise that sought to revolutionize American construction. Hi everyone, Ken here. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore this house. Although industrialized building methods date back to the 19th century, and prefabrication have been used for everything from kit bungalows to Sears modern homes, it's enough to recognize that Lustron was different. Rather than employing wood framing or even typical metal studs, Lustron houses featured an entirely steel chassis, walls, roof, and even interior built-ins coated with a durable porcelain enamel. These unconventional dwellings echo the dreams of post-war America: mass production, rapid assembly, and a promise of modern living at a modest price. But the reality of executing such a grand plan would prove challenging in unforeseen ways. The mastermind behind the Lustron concept was Carl G. Strandland, a Swedish-born inventor and entrepreneur. He was not an architect by trade, though he did collaborate with design professionals of the era. Strandland's true expertise lay in metal fabrication, particularly the process of bonding porcelain enamel to steel. During the war, he had worked on pressing steel panels for aircraft and military equipment. After 1945, recognizing the severe housing shortage afflicting returning GIs and their families, Strandland seized upon the idea of producing homes in a factory-like setting, then shipping them nationwide for rapid assembly on site. He believed the process could be faster, cheaper, and more durable than standard wood frame construction. In 1947, Strandland secured funding from the Reconstruction Finance Corporation, a government entity set up to spur business in the aftermath of the Depression and wartime austerity. The Lustron Corporation took over a massive former aircraft factory in Columbus, Ohio. By harnessing assembly line efficiencies, Strandland envisioned churning out up to 100 houses per day. Each house would arrive on a truck, packed flat with thousands of numbered steel panels, ready for local contractors to bolt together in weeks, or even days. The slogan was that a Lustron house could be quote-unquote built like an automobile, and since new cars symbolize post-war prosperity, the analogy certainly caught the public's imagination. But marketing aside, the practicalities of living in an all-steel house were novel. Inside, ceilings, walls, and built-in cabinetry all featured the same baked-on enamel finish, typically in soft pastels: surf blue, dove gray, desert tan, maize yellow, evoking the popular choices of 1950s kitchens and appliances. The roof was also steel, designed to shed water efficiently and last for decades. Interiors were pretty modern for their time, often including radiant heat in the ceiling panels, a space-saving combination clothes and dishwasher, and sleek built-in shelves and closets. Lustron's marketing materials boasted that homeowners could simply wipe down the metal panels, alleviating the need for painting or wallpapering. One basic claim, the porcelain enamel was nearly indestructible, resistant to fading, rust, or even hail. Lustron executives argued that maintenance costs would be minimal as there was no wood siding to rot nor shingles to replace. Plus, a well-insulated steel panel system could in theory keep heating and cooling costs competitive with traditional homes, although real-world performance varied. While the idea of a mass-produced steel house felt futuristic, Lustron still faced significant hurdles. There were the complexities of financing. Banks were hesitant to offer mortgages for a type of construction that didn't fit conventional categories. Zoning codes in many towns were written around wood frame or masonry standards, leaving Lustron's metal approach in a gray area. Additionally, building inspectors unfamiliar with steel kit homes often required special approvals or modifications. And though Strandland dreamed of simplifying assembly, the houses comprised thousands of parts that had to be painstakingly fit together on site by contractors who were at first unaccustomed to working with enamel steel panels instead of 2x4s. Nevertheless, enthusiasm for Lustron houses soared in the late 1940s. Hundreds of franchise dealers sprang up in suburban areas, hoping to catch the wave of post-war prosperity. Veterans could often put little or no money down, and the glossy marketing brochures pictured happy nuclear families enjoying the newest and modern convenience. Several models were offered, with the 2-bedroom Westchester Deluxe being the most famous. There was also the Newport and the Meadowbrook, each sporting variations in floor plans, though all shared the signature metal construction and interior design details. Signs of trouble, however, began to surface almost as soon as production ramped up. Achieving the ambitious goal of 100 houses a day proved elusive, as manufacturing steel panels required precision tooling and supply chain interruptions caused delays. Government funding came with strings attached, forcing Lustron to meet targets that proved unrealistic. Cost overruns mounted. Meanwhile, the housing market itself was evolving. Competition from more conventional builders accelerated, with Levitt & Sons, for instance, pioneering large-scale tract developments using wood frames at competitive pricing. Lustron's futuristic approach may have captured headlines, but in practice, a typical Lustron cost as much, if not more, than a comparable wood frame home. By 1950, the Lustron Corporation was insolvent. The Reconstruction Finance Corporation, tired of cost overruns and misproduction quotas, called in its loans. Strandland's grand dreams ended in receivership, the Columbus plant shuttered, and only about 2,500 Lustron homes were ever produced, far fewer than the tens of thousands originally envisioned. It was a spectacular rise and fall for what had been hailed in glossy magazines as the house of the future. All told, surviving Lustron houses often exude a certain quiet charm. At first glance, one might confuse them for any mid-century ranch, but on closer inspection, the rigid metal roof and distinctive rectangular wall panels stand out. The interior, with crisp corners and built-ins that seem more like furniture than walls, suggests a carefully orchestrated design meant to blend functionality with aesthetic neatness. Then we come to the question, why didn't Lustron houses become a lasting mainstream style? The answer, as with many architectural experiments, involves a tangle of economics, politics, and plain old practicality. While Strandland insisted that factory production would lead to lower cost, the reality of shipping, financing, and on-site labor eroded much of the potential savings. Furthermore, not all buyers were enthralled with the idea of an all-steel dwelling. Wood was familiar, warm, and backed by centuries of building tradition. Early 1950s America was also discovering more flexible suburban designs, replete with colonial revival touches, attached garages, and open yards. The steel boxiness of a Lustron, while undeniably modern, didn't mesh with the mainstream suburban aesthetics or local building codes. Beyond the financial meltdown of the company, there were cultural factors at play. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, Americans craved normalcy after the disruptions of war. While certain avant-garde architects championed experimental materials and minimalist lines, the mass market gravitated toward more traditional comforts. Prefabrication soon found other avenues, such as mobile homes and modular units, which were cheaper and easier to transport. Lustron's elegantly enameled steel panels, ironically, proved too sophisticated and costly for widespread adoption. As with many architectural what-ifs, the Lustron legacy remains a fascinating study in innovation that almost took hold. Enthusiasts still drive out of their way to glimpse a pristine example, marveling at the glossy surfaces and the notion that a simple wipe down with a cloth might be all the maintenance it needs. Preservation movements have singled out Lustron homes as important cultural artifacts, symbolic of a rare era in which optimism about mass production and new materials coincided with a desperate need for affordable housing. Looking back, one wonders how suburban landscapes might look if the Lustron experiment had succeeded. Would rows of enameled steel houses line our streets, offering a consistent, virtually maintenance-free exterior? Would we have advanced further into modular construction decades earlier, or would the homes still look out of place alongside the more traditional ranches, Cape Cods, and split levels that now define post-war America? The fact that only 2,500 or so units were completed leaves plenty of room for speculation. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. Let me know your thoughts on Lustron houses down below in the comments section. And while you're there, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an exciting episode of This House.